Hey guys, how you doing today? Just wanted to record a real quick one. If you hear any smirking in the background, it's my little guy. I just fed him, and he likes food, so he eats food. I think what we're experiencing right now is pretty wild, actually. The house is burning down, right? We've all been living in sort of a decrepit house that we've been keeping afloat through extraordinary effort. Selling ourselves into the prospect of keeping the house up. But now the house is on fire. And when the house lit on fire, we were all given the evacuation order, and we were told if we can get out of there and let the professionals get into the house, perhaps we can prevent the fire from spreading. Perhaps we can prevent the house from killing us. Some places, like the United States, have just kept people in the house working. And now our country is trying to say, now that the fire is as bad as it's going to get, we think, now is the time to start sending people back into the fire. There's a reason we've been calling grocery store clerks heroes, because they're standing in the middle of a fire, and we know that that's true. We don't want to actually do anything to ameliorate that situation for them, nothing substantial or serious, because we're not a substantial or serious culture. But we're happy to call them heroes. As capitalism knows, the only thing you really need to do is be an effective propagandist. And then people will let you get away with all kinds of things. Calling people heroes in lieu of doing anything effective is exactly what capitalism is. And so now the house fire has gotten as steady as it possibly can, we think. And so we're making the absolutely foolish decision, based completely on impatience and an unwillingness to actually pause and self-reflect and do effort to take the time to look into ourselves and to ask sincere questions about the society that is around us, and ask sincere questions about what it is we've been participating in or doing. That's all difficult work. Turns out sitting on your ass doing nothing is more difficult than sending people back into a house fire. I'm to a point now with capitalism where everything that we have been told is an outright lie. If a capitalist says something to me, I begin with the proposition, you're lying to me. And I have to figure out how you're lying to me. And that's my task and my job, because that's all capitalism has ever done. That's all it ever will do. That's how it's structured to be. And I would actually even argue against the idea that capitalism, one of the things that capitalist proponents will consistently say is they will say, well, capitalism's the best system we've discovered so far. I don't know if that's true. There's a debate to be had on that point. Because most of the time you'll find that capitalists are largely illiterate. The ones that are literate are only literate insofar as it maintains their power. They'll read Machiavelli's The Prince, but they certainly won't read the Bible. They'll just pretend like they have, so that they can convince you that they're on a moral side, when really they're just in it for themselves. That's the way capitalism functions. Things like empathy and compassion are just tools for a capitalist to use, and they don't acknowledge that some people may actually be here to care about other people. That's a foreign concept for a capitalist and for a conservative, which is why you have Andrew Scheer saying we should get rid of the CERB, why you have him calling for a return to the parliament and a thorough overview of the fiscal situation, because he doesn't care about human life, obviously. He cares about money, and he cares about the money for his corporate owners and his corporate masters. Many conservatives, of course, are losing their minds right now because, oh goodness, the deficit. The deficit is currently like 1/5 the corporate cash hoard. We're not even worried about it. When we fought World War II, we accrued a deficit that was enormous, far more enormous than this. And we got through that and we paid that off just fine because we approached that side of the conversation rationally. But of course, we're not approaching this situation rationally because we're sending people back into a house fire. And we're saying, well, the house fire is as big as we think it's going to get, so we might as well send you on in so that you can go and work the machines and you can make things for us again, because we don't work, you work for us. And of course, they don't recognize that turning the machines back on will make the house fire worse. The medical professionals are deeply concerned about a second wave. Even Justin Trudeau has said that there is the potential for a second wave, while simultaneously relaxing constrictions and all of that. We are due for a second wave, and we're due for a second wave on a very simple principle. I like to talk about things theologically because it's fun. I don't really care if you believe in God or if you believe in any of this kind of stuff. And if you replace the word God with universe, you'll find that it's pretty universal. This virus has come through and has shown that we are a very arrogant, short-sighted people, that we are not actually interested in working with the forces of nature that are around us. We're interested in exploiting them. And we have not yet come to terms with the fact that the earth itself will not tolerate that kind of behavior for very long. Capitalism has only been in existence for, at most, 300 years. This is a small, tiny, glimmering, I shouldn't say at most. I think you could make an argument for 400 or 500 years even if you wanted. In either case, this is a small, tiny, fractional glimmering in a pan compared to the existence of the planet and of the earth. And in such a short time, we have managed to unbalance things so drastically and desperately that we are forcing upon ourselves existential crises like climate change, existential crises that could, if not destroy humankind, certainly make the lives of humans in the future a less tolerable proposition. And for us to believe that we are functioning in a system that works for us to actually pretend as though a system that is obviously destroying us is natural or to our benefit is highly arrogant. Which is exactly what capitalism is. It's highly arrogant. Donald Trump is the perfect face of capitalism in this moment. He is the personification of capitalism. It is a complete joke. The earth, God himself or herself or itself or whatever language you desire, laughs at us, mocks us so cleanly by showing us the personification of our system in a figure like Donald Trump or Doug Ford or Jason Kenney or Brian Pallister or even Justin Trudeau, and says, this is what you live with, this is what you live under. I shall bring you low with the smallest of my offenses. I say this all the time, and I think it's absolutely true. This is a shot across the bow, a way for the earth to say to us, look at what your arrogance has done. Look at what will happen to your society with the smallest of my offenses. This isn't even a plague. It's a pandemic. A pandemic we seem to believe we can control by simply going back to business as usual. And the earth will punish us for that. The earth will punish us cleanly, and we will have no one to blame but ourselves. The societies that have stayed in lockdown, that have acted rationally, that have done what needs to be done, that have humbled themselves before the forces of the planet, are the places that are going to recover, are the places that are going to be able to work with the earth and renew a new contract with the earth, which is what we need to be doing. We need to be renewing a new contract with the earth itself, that our systems of death and exploitation and extortion, the wage slavery, the pillaging of the planet will not tolerate, and it's making it very clear. And if we continue in this way, the planet will continue in this way. The pandemics will become worse. The climate catastrophes will become worse. Until finally we will be put into a situation where we will be forced to migrate en masse as a people. And that is the moment where things become undeniable. That right now there's still this sort of pretend narrative that we can go back to normal. These people are people looking at a house that is going to burn to the ground. And they're saying, well, tomorrow we'll just go back to living in that house. Or let's just go back into that house right now. That's right. My little dog is not going to tolerate that kind of thinking. And neither should you. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, buddy. I know, you saw a bird. We need to reinvest. We need to reinvest in the idea that the planet is our partner. No, even more than that. We need to subserviate ourselves to the earth. We need to humble ourselves to the forces of the planet. The idea that we could build a system that grows eternally is delusional. The ideology of a mad theologian working for forces of darkness. The idea that we can just continue exploiting the planet and its resources to exhaustion and collapse without recourse is evil. And we need to face that. That capitalism is not a force that fights for good, and it never was, it never has been, and it never will be. And if we are going to even attempt to work with it, to acknowledge our subordinate place to the planet, we cannot do so while maintaining this edifice of capitalism. And even the capitalists themselves must acknowledge that the system requires reform, significant reform, not tiny little piecemeal reform, significant major reform. I talk a lot about the basic income on this channel, and I'm going to continue doing that, but the basic income is just the beginning. That's just the first step, the first admission that the system requires reform. It is not a final solution. It is not the end of change, the end of reform. It is simply the beginning. Because once the wage slaves are free, then they will be permitted to go about the difficult work of living peacefully with the earth. All right, guys, good luck out there. I hope you're having a good time. Find a drink. Find a friend. Give someone a hug. That's the hardest part for me. Haven't really given anybody a hug in a long, long time. If you can do it, I recommend it. I love you all. Good luck. Subscribe, share, all that stuff. I think that what I'm saying is important, and if you made it to the end of this, please subscribe, please share, please send this to somebody, please send this to a friend. More people need to know that there are people in the world thinking the way that I think. And I need to know that there are more people in the world thinking the way that I think. And when the time comes for us to take to the streets, we'll need a place to rally. This channel is as good as any. Good luck.